Good morning, guys. Welcome to the Recovery Channel podcast. My name's Dr. Rob Kelly, the Addiction Doctor, along with my co-host Jennifer Lovely. It's an amazing day today from San Antonio, live on Facebook, guys, and live on YouTube, and uploaded to site this afternoon or tomorrow morning. So we're getting you, all of you guys, we're getting you to tune in, we're getting you to listen. We're going to ask the questions that nobody else is asking. How you doing, Jen?
I'm doing good. So we have two babies' birthdays today. Your daughter, Charlie. Happy birthday, Charlie. And my JoJo. Happy birthday. Crazy that we have our kid's birthday at the same day. Isn't that weird?
That is the weirdest thing ever. So we've been going along, me and Jen. We've not been working together that long, but it's been a few months now, probably 8 months or something. And bit by bit, we're getting these things in common, which I always look for. I don't know why. It might be a suspicious thing. And the final nail in the coffin today was like, I posted on Facebook, happy birthday. And it's like, oh my God, it's the same as my son's. And that was the final nail. I thought, that's it. We're together now. We can't never break up. This is what it's going to be for the rest of our lives. So many things in common, Jen.
I know. That's so funny. It's hilarious. So my son sends me his daily morning inspirations, his readings, and I thought this was appropriate. It's from 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. In order for me to start working on the 12 Steps, I had to work on sincerity and honesty, and to learn to act with humility. Carrying the message is the gift of myself. No matter how many years of sobriety I may have accumulated, my dreams can become a reality. I solidify my sobriety by sharing what I have received freely. And as I look back to that time when I began my recovery, there was already a seed of hope that I could help another drunk pull himself out of his alcoholic mire. My wish is to help another drunk is the key to my spiritual health, but I never forget that God acts through me. I am only his instrument. Even if the other person is not ready, there is success because my effort is his behalf has helped me to remain sober and to become stronger. To act, to never grow weary in my 12-step work is the key. If I am capable of laughing today, let me not forget those days when I cried. God, remind me that I can feel compassion.
Wow. That's powerful.
Good.
Yeah, I like that. I spoke to my daughter about 15 minutes before I come on the show, and she's really happy because I get to do this, guys. I'm not showing off. I get to do this today. You need to know my story before you judge what I'm going to say, because I'm not the rich guy everyone thinks I am. I had to work at this. Okay, I'm the rich guy, but I had to work on it. I had to work a long time from being homeless to where I am today. It's really hard work, but I give my daughter a 24-hour use daddy's credit card, and there's no limit on it. So I've got a feeling I'm going to regret that sentence, but we'll see what happens. 2 years we've got back together, 2, maybe 3 years, and it's been absolutely awesome. Pleasure to do this as a dad. So who have we got on the show today? I can almost hear you asking, guys. Well, Max Nijst is on the show. I hope I got that last name right. It's awesome last name. He's got a great book out, and he's been a counselor, helped thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, with the ripple effect that we have over his time. And he's got a great story of his own. So stick around, guys. We're going to be right back with Max Nijst after this short break. Hey guys, welcome back to the Recovery Channel podcast. My name is Dr. Rob, the Addiction Doctor, and Jennifer Lovely. And our special guest this week is Max. Welcome to the show, Max.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being on. Excited to hear about your book. But first, I would love for you to tell me 5 things that have impacted your life.
Oh, 5 things. Good, negative, or actually, some of the negative has definitely turned into a positive for me. I think impacted my life getting clean and sober. I've been clean and sober since September 27th of 2003. Which that was just, that was for me, the most impactful thing, because one, it brought me back my family. Two, it set me on a path to help others to recover from that, what they call, as you read, the state of hopeless mind and body. Second, I said I think the biggest, it's up there with getting sober, is getting married to my wife, my current wife. She's amazing. She's a normie, but she supports my recovery 100%. And she understands, like, if I got to go to a meeting, she's like, go to a meeting. She never questions it. Three would be, wow, there's so many. Becoming a counselor and being put in a position to help others, besides the meetings and working 12 steps with guys I sponsor. It put me in another position to help people who are looking for recovery but not sure where they want to go, because not everybody wants to do the 12 steps. Not everybody, so you get to help them find different paths to recovery.
Yeah.
And number, I think 3 or 4 would be becoming a father again after getting clean and sober, because I hadn't seen my children in like 9 years because of my active addiction. Taught me how to be a better man, to realize that I'm not always their friend and they're not going to like it, that I'm dad, I'm not a friend. Yeah. And 5, wow, there's 5 has probably happened in the last 4 years when I lost 4 family members. The impact that has had on my life, and the fact that I didn't think about drinking or using, because the first 3 I lost within just about a year, a little over a year. I lost my sister, my brother, lost his battle to addiction and committed suicide. My mom would die 6 months to the day on Thanksgiving Day. And then that following Monday, I would put my youngest daughter into treatment. And then as recent as last year, I lost my granddaughter at 3 months and a day old. And then because of my son's, choices, he almost lost his life to a massive stroke at 30 because of his addiction. He's sober now. He's actually over 60 days sober and he's doing better. But those are probably the most impactful things that have happened to me in the past 4 years that have really kept me on the path of sobriety.
So let's take you back to the beginning of the addiction. And when did you know that you had a problem with addiction?
Oh, that, and it's in my book. So I knew I had a problem when I was in jail the last time. I'm sitting in Orange County at the main jail in Orange County in Santa Ana. And my mom came to visit for the first time. I think I've been in there a week or two, maybe more, give or take. And she looked at me from across the glass and said, "Son, I love you, but you're no longer welcome at my home. If you come near my home, I will call the police. And if the neighbors see you and I'm not around, that they're to call the police. What are you going to do?" And it was at that moment when I knew that something had to change. And, like all the years before, all the empty promises went out the window. And I gave her that probably the best answer ever was, "I don't know." And I remember her crying, and I looked at her and I'm like, "Why are you crying? I'm the one sitting over here, I don't get to leave." And she said, "That was probably the best answer you've ever given me." And I knew. It was then when I knew, after I got to look back over the years of my addiction, the progression from, like tickets to getting thrown in jail, and the charges were starting to get worse and worse. And most of all, not seeing my children, picking my drugs and alcohol over my kids. I realized, like, things have to change.
Yeah, for sure. That Santa Ana main jail. I hate that jail. I've sat there on the other side of that glass many times visiting my children. And I certainly hate the collect calls. I think I still have PTSD from those collect calls. I'm curious about your trauma, the trauma that got you into addiction.
God, and I always like to say, I don't have trauma, but I do, and I realize what that trauma is. And it's not, when you work with people in drug treatment, and alcohol treatment, you realize that. And I think I minimize mine because I heard some pretty horrific stuff, like, wow, like I really got nothing to complain about. But for me, my trauma happened when, see, my dad and mom divorced when I was little. So I guess that's my trauma, right? Because then I didn't see my father for years and years and years until I was about 10. Then he finally came back to the States because his job, I guess, took him overseas. And it was right before I turned 11. And, you know, my brother and I got to see him. And I remember him telling me, promising me he'd be back for my birthday, right? That was like February, right before I turned 11. And my birthday came and went. And then April came. And then I got the news that he passed away. So I realized through doing the work that my trauma was him breaking that promise, you know, like how, as an 11-year-old, it was like, how dare you die on me? You just promised you would be back for my birthday, you know? And I realized that's what I drank at. That's what I used drugs at, amongst other things. But that was my biggest one, is that broken promise, you know? And plus I hadn't seen my dad in years before that. So, you know, I realized that was my trauma.
I always get people that come here and they go, Dr. Rob, I've got no trauma at all. We have to define trauma, especially with the addicted brain. So if my brain's been distorted from birth, this is hereditary with a predisposed disposition. So look at the trauma. Well, I always tell people, like, childhood trauma, especially because whenever there's alcoholism, guys, and addiction, there's always trauma. And you have to look what that is. And if you can't find what it is, you're not getting into program enough, or your counselors, fire your counselor, by the way. She's no good or he's no good if you're not getting to that point. I mean, because you go back. So here's my definition of trauma with the addicted brain early on. Mom or dad says to you, get down off that chair, you stupid idiot. How many times have I told you can't go to college like your brother? You're not smart enough. You know, this is the stuff that the addicted brain will take in, and it lodges in the subconscious brain. And it will use that as a weapon towards you at the wrong time, at the wrong place. It'll come out. And some of it's called a blank mental spot, where suddenly you'll be doing great. Then your behavior will change. You'll get irritable and you'll know all this. But all of a sudden, bang, you'll find yourself in a bar somewhere or with a bottle of vodka sat at home thinking, what the hell just happened? This is addiction. By the time you pick the drink or the drug up, it's over. That's not your relapse. Let's trace it back a week or even 2 weeks to find out where your behavior changed. You know, where that idiot across the room in the office getting on your nerves because he's wearing a white shirt, that's your relapse. So we've got to trace back trauma. So what I'm interested is, if we look at your life, I know it was just horrendous because it was your life, you know, and you have to get over everything. But what was it like when you found out that your children suffered from the same addiction as you or the same disease as you?
Let me tell you, 3 of them. Let me take that back. All 4 of them are a tip off the old block, right? I have, and I'll be very honest with everybody here. My youngest will not speak to me. He hasn't spoken to me in years. And, you know, from his mother, I don't know what happened at 12, but it was like after he turned 12, that was it. Don't want to talk to you. You've done nothing for me, blah, 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 blah. My other 3, like I said, I put my youngest daughter into treatment 3 times. And one she got administrative leave to discharge from because, you know, her focus was other than getting clean and sober. And I remember putting it into another place, got her a scholarship from a friend of mine. And she left the first time. The second time, I drove all the way to Bakersfield, which is about a 5-hour drive from where I live. And I remember, you know, everything looked great. She was telling me everything I wanted to hear. I didn't even make it to the freeway when her counselor called and said, your daughter just left. And I was just like, wow, that's addiction. And then my oldest daughter, who's 27 or 28 now, she's got all the isms, right? But I can't tell her she's an alcoholic. And then my oldest, my son, who had the stroke, we all know that was all a direct result of poor choices and drug use and poor diet. But they all, you know, and when I found out, it was like, why? You know, to be honest, as a parent, you know, because when I got clean and sober after I turned a year, they would start, you know, I gained trust of their mother, and they would come every weekend and they would go to meetings with me. You know, they would sit in the meetings with me, and you'd think, okay, they're learning, but sometimes I think they learn the wrong things, but it broke my heart, but it just shows me how strong that gene is, because it's on both sides of my family, my mother's and my father. My father was an alcoholic. I found out after I turned a year. My mom took me aside after my chip, and she said, "Your dad was an alcoholic. I used to have to go find that guy. I'd have to really go out and look for him because he'd be too drunk to come home." And I'm like, you could have told me that. She will, like, you're just like your dad. You probably still would have did it anyway. So I had to let things play out,
Yeah, definitely. It's so interesting because I think that when it comes to our kids, no matter what we know in terms of recovery and the steps that we have to take in order to get to recovery, everything goes out the window when it has to do with our kids. Like dysfunction, it's like we can go into a whole different place. Whereas if it was somebody else that came to you and asked for help, you'd be like, do this, you'd be calm, you'd do this. But when it comes to our kids, it's just like everything goes out the window. It's hilarious.
Oh, absolutely. And I got that pointed out to me by my wife, I mean, it was like I lived out of guilt and shame for those years I wasn't there. It was like, it was okay to let them get away with stuff. But like, if I go to work, like, I'm a hard ass, you're going to do the work. You're going to do it this way. You know what I mean? And I get what you're saying, but when it's your kids, things are different. That's why I had to go to Al-Anon.
Yeah. I also suggest Coda is a good one too. So, and I totally get your daughter because and I'm sure that you've been to all of the rehabs in Orange County, because my son certainly has been in and out of all of them, 16 of them to be exact. So I'm really curious, what were you and how long were you in jail, and how long, what was it all drug related, or were there other? Okay.
All drug related. And it was a slow progression, right? From when the drug addiction took off, it was, you don't take care of anything. So at first it was tickets for not driving without a registration, without a license. And then it was getting in trouble for paraphernalia. So the last time I was in jail, it was my last time, which was my last probation violation. And it's a progression. First one is 30 days, then it's 60 days. So like in Orange County, I burned out all my jail time. So even now with 17 years, if I decide to go out and break the law, they're going to bring up all my stuff and go, "Oh, you only get to sit here for 2 weeks because you're going to prison." And that's what the judge told me the last time I was in jail. So I was in jail for 6 months, literally 6 months, because I hadn't done anything that the judge had ordered me to do, like PC 1000, Prop 36 back then, which is kind of like what drug court is now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, usually with good time, you do 4 months and you're out. But see, since I had such a bad habit of not doing what the judge asked me to do, he says, "I will keep you here. Here's your choices. You stay here till I find you a place, or I send you to prison." And I was looking at a 3-year prison sentence for not. So I literally did almost 6 months at the main jail. And it was because he said, "You just don't do anything." And every time they would bring, "Oh, we'll send you here," I would go like, "What do you want?" I said, "No, don't send me there, Your Honor, because unless you want me to have a new charge, I wouldn't send me there." And blah, I always had an excuse for not wanting to do what he wanted me to do. But finally, they found a place for me that he sent me to a year. And his words were, "I'm going to send you to this place for a year, and if you slip up 1 millimeter, I'm sending you to prison." And
that's pretty strict instructions. That will get your attention real quick.
It did. But the good addict and alcoholic that I was, is once I got some sobriety time, it was like, I got this, And I really, when I look back at my first, I want to say 4 to 5 months at the place, I did everything because I wanted to look good. I could share great in a meeting, I was there to save my face, to look good. And, when I look back, I did the half measures thing when it came to my steps, like, because when I remember, and I shared this with my guys that I sponsor and people I counsel, it's like, don't be afraid of that 4 step. Right. And I remember doing my first one, and it was probably 3/4 of a page long. right? So my sponsor, when I handed him that piece of paper, he kind of gave me that look like, dude, are you kidding me? He didn't say it, but it was on his face, like, you have been running the streets for 9 years. You just got out of jail, and you're telling me your 4-step is 3/4 of a page long. And I looked at him like, yeah, here, let's do this. And I realized I was still holding on to secrets, and I relapsed 4 times while I was in that place. And
it's amazing. Dr. Rob, I was visiting with Dr. Rob this last weekend in Texas, and I went to a book study with him. And one of the things that's profound, he's a genius when it comes to doing the steps, but he really deeply talks about doing that 4-step and how that literally will psychically change your life. I don't know, you can talk about that, Dr. Rob, as well, but I was really moved, because I know that for me was the thing that changed my life in terms of my own addiction and codependency and sickness.
Absolutely.
And first of all, thank you. Genius. That's a serious word. I put a lot of work in it, and nobody tells me ever. It's like, Jen, nobody tells us we're any good. So that kind of make the hairs on the back of my neck go up then. Guys, Max Nijst is on the show. What a great guy. I'm going to continue after the word from our sponsor. Stick around, guys. It's going to be good. Welcome back, guys. This is the Recovery Channel podcast. Myself, Dr. Rob, the Addiction Doctor, and Jennifer Lovely. Max has just nipped off for coffee. He'll be back in a second.
That's hilarious. I like it. Max, where'd you go?
Unless he's unconscious, fell off the chair. Maybe he's only 3 foot tall and he's fell off the chair. Can't get back on it. I don't know. We don't know, do we? We'll see what happens.
That is so awesome. That's so perfect, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I know we was talking about the 4th step, guys. Let me tell you that the book says that after we finish the 4th step, we will be delighted, is what the book actually says, as long as you get down to your grosser handicaps. I would talk about not just the $10 you stole off your granny 20 years ago. That's not what's doing it, guys. It's the grosser handicaps. There's only 7. So if you get one of them 7, you're doing the right thing. Stiff, you're going to take to the grave with you, the book says.
Well, yeah, that's the thing that you said, was that you've got to talk about the things that you're going to bring to your death with you. And I love that.
Yeah, the serious stuff.
Thanks for coming back, Max. We thought you were fell off the chair or something.
My apologies. So I have a mother-in-law that lives with us here at my house, and she's got Alzheimer's, which is getting worse. So I check on her. And then our friend who rents our downstairs, his daughter has autism. So I have to make sure she stays on task, because she's getting ready to go to school. And then I'll get my wife up at the next break and make sure she gets that done. But that's the things I get to do because of my recovery. So
you get to do it. I like that. You get to do it. That's what it's all about today. That's what it's all about. So tell me, what does the future look like for you, Max, going forward? I know the COVID has hit everybody, but what's your future look like?
Oh, I'm actually excited for the future because of the things I'm doing. Even though they eliminated my position at a place locally here where I worked, it was probably the best thing that could ever happen, And like I said, I'm working on my own counseling / sober coaching business. I'm thinking about writing another book, which I already came up with the title. It made me change the whole outlook, and both of we could either go one way where it's the poor me pity, oh, they took my job away, so I'm going to sit here and be depressed, because I suffer from clinical depression, but I have not been on meds for almost 2 years now. And I feel better. So what I've done is incorporated more exercise, better diet, work my program, all that stuff. So I think my future is looking really bright, because I'm just owning my space right now and what I want to do and who I'm going to be and how I can still serve others. So I'm excited, actually. I mean, of course, I have those moments like, oh my God, what am I going to do? the addict brain kicks in and it goes all over, but I'm pretty excited.
Yeah. Talk to me about fearless happiness.
Okay. Fearless happiness, my kind of what it does is, here's what happened. So when my sister died 3 days after I turned 13 years sober, I was engaged at the time. We're getting ready. My ex-fiance, we're getting ready to move to Minnesota so we can be closer to her daughter, right? So on the way there, we were sitting at a Denny's in Denver, Colorado, when I got the call about my little brother, who, my oldest brother, who's got 37 years coming up in a week. He'll have 37 years clean in NA. And he called me and he said, our brother's gone. It didn't hit me because if you knew my brother, he likes to get on his motorcycle, go for a ride, or pack up his motorcycle, go out to the desert. He's a, spur of the moment. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. What did he do? Just go for a ride? And he goes, no, our brother's gone. He committed suicide, hung himself. And I'll never forget. Sitting right there in that Denny's, I lost it, because my brother and I were close. We were the two youngest. We grew up the most, because most of my older siblings, like the nearest one to me is 10 years older. So they were already out of the house. Not that I'm not close with them, but, growing up with my little brother, who was 2 years, we went through our addiction together. We got sober together. I remember, and I still had a day and a half left to get to Minnesota. And so fearless happiness came about is when, after my brother passed, I ended up breaking up with my fiance and coming back to California. And I knew I had to do something. And I had this idea. I had already written the outline for the book. And so I called some of my friends that are like mentors and coaches, but they're not in recovery. And I said, I got to write this book. And they pushed me. They said, okay, let's do it. And so for me, it was just more very healing and cathartic to write this book, because I wanted to show people, not just in recovery, but anyone, that here's the principles I live by, and this is what got me through the hardest times in my life. And that's those principles, and the support group I surrounded myself with. And I'm telling you, when I found out and my brother had posted something, my phone literally would die, because so many people in the program would call or text. I couldn't talk, but the only person I remember calling was my sponsor. He was the first person I called, which that's what they taught me in the program, right? If you're in a bad place, call someone. And he was. And I remember I couldn't even speak, but he sat on the phone for like 2 hours, just as I was driving to Minnesota, like to reassure me, I'm here for you. I'm here. He didn't even know what to say. Like, those were one of the two. There was 2 times he said, I really don't know what to say, but I'm here for you. Usually he would give me some wisdom, but, I thank God for the program. I thank God for the people in the program. And I thank God for those, I have to say, the hard asses that kicked me in the butt and said, just do the work, do the steps. Don't be afraid.
That's the best way to do it with people, I want to say, like us, because we've been there, and we don't. I didn't take any shit off anybody all my life. I still don't. It's a curse now. It used to be on my side, but my sponsor was his father was an ex-mobster, a London gangland guy, and he would take no crap. I swear to God, Max. I come out, I'd relapsed one day, and he came round, he banged on the door in his little apartment, and he came in, and he grabbed me, and he said, we're going to a meeting, and off we went. And we got to the front door. I took £10 that I still had in my pocket, and I says, hey, listen, Tony, you want to take these £10 just in case I drink again? And he punched me across the side of the face. He knocked the tooth out here. There's a gold tooth. He knocked it out. And he said, get up. He said, don't ever do that to me again. You're either going to do this deal or you're not. Simple as that. So listen, just going back to your book for a second, because I know when I wrote my book, I did it really cool, because I had a wife, a.k.a. Jay Bear, who I would write things as they come along. Like even today, I'm driving down the road and I see a dad coming out of McDonald's. He's obviously a Saturday dad. He's had a few drinks with his daughter, and my memory goes back, and it hurts for like 5 seconds. And I would write it down and pass it on to my wife. And she created this amazing book. And what a lot of people don't know out there with my book is we'd leave half pages blank. We'd stop. And psychologically, it pissed the alcoholic off because he wanted it all nice and tidy, and that's the reason why we did that. But when the book was actually what came out, I haven't actually read it yet. To be, and people go, "What? You not read it?" No, I haven't. It was too painful coming up with the stuff. I'm not ready yet to go back. So my question to you, obviously, is it's obviously painful. Did you put everything in there, and do you feel relieved?
Absolutely. When I finally, and here's how that went down. So yes, I feel like I put everything that I wanted to in this book out on the table. So in that process of working with a writer and getting it done, I remember the gentleman said, "Hey, why don't you come down?" Because he lives in Phoenix, Arizona. And I think this is one of the most healing parts, was sitting with this gentleman and getting the words out to finish the book for 2 days straight. Like I laughed, I cried, and I got to say that I put my whole heart into this book, and because here's the thing. And when I wrote the book too, I went back to college, right? And because none of my siblings have a 4-year degree, and I did it because I told my mom, I promised her when I got sober, I'm going to get a college degree. And she'd always go, like, "You barely graduated high school." Okay, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, and so I did. I went back and got my degree in psychology. And I remember I graduated right before she passed. And I was supposed to walk in December, the year she passed. And she died on Thanksgiving Day. So I haven't walked, but I have my degree. And I got to show her my degree before she passed. So it put a big smile on her face. And I think, like, I'm happy with it. It's not a huge read, but this is, everything in here is from the heart, most definitely. So
I love that. Thank you for that. So I believe underneath all of our suffering, there's something that wants to emerge. And I actually, not to get too deep for everybody this morning, but I actually believe it's our soul that is stirring, that is telling, that is asking for something. And it actually can cause deep suffering when our soul is asking for something and we have no idea what our soul wants from us. Right. And it causes that suffering. Right. And a lot of times, in ways to numb it, we use drugs, alcohol, sex, food, whatever the thing is. So we can be like, please stop stirring inside of me. So I'm curious, what is the thing that wanted to be seen inside of you and your suffering? What was your soul asking of you?
I've never had that asked. That's a great question. And I think because I've gone through therapy and I'm continue to do so, you know what I mean? So I think my soul is the most, because growing up, my mom was older, if you know what I mean. From the older the hardcore older generation, the kids should be seen, not heard. I think it was, I needed to be heard. You know what I mean? I needed to be, there's a word I'm thinking, but it's definitely needed to be heard, because a lot of the times it was like, we don't want to hear what you have to say. Just go over there and do what we tell you to do. And, getting this book out, it was kind of like doing my 4-step, at the end. And you guys will all agree when I finally did it honestly and thoroughly and just laid everything out on the table. And when I was done, it was like that silverback gorilla let me loose of the headlock off my back, jumped off and ran away. And it was like, I could breathe, I could breathe. And, it was just, that's what I think my soul wanted, is that, because growing up, I don't feel I was ever heard, because mom was busy. She was raising 2 kids by herself, and a lot of times it was a graveyard shift. So I feel it was just to be heard and to be appreciated and to be loved. That's exactly what, if you want to put it that way.
Hey guys, Max Nijst is on the show. We're going to come back right after this. Hey guys, if you're listening or not watching, that was Live and Recovery Interventions. Recovery begins today. Recovery begins together. Give the gift of recovery. Our friend Travis, me and Jennifer love Travis. He's one of the best at this interventions. So please call him if you wish to, 808-01-573-4188 or liveandrecoveryinterventions.com. Back into the show, guys. We're running out of time, unfortunately, but Max is on the show with his amazing story, his past, his children, and the deaths that he's gone through, even through being in recovery, is just absolutely phenomenal. So, Max, somebody comes to you, they're suffering from untreated alcoholism or addiction. What's the first thing you want them to know?
What's the first? Well, this is what the old timers have taught me. If someone has the untreated alcoholism and they're coming to me, he said, ask them. A lot of them say, ask them 2 questions, right? Because this is, you're going to find out if they're willing to go get help or go to any lengths, as they say. And the first question I ask them is, do you think you have a problem? Right? If they answer yes, then I ask them the second question. Are you willing to do anything about it? And if they answer yes, okay, there's hope. Then I can guide them to where they need to go, or whatever. But what I was taught, and it's been proven over and over, at least in my 17 years, is that if they say, well, no, I don't think I have a problem, I just think it's been bad luck, then I kind of look at them like, you're not ready then. Right. So, I mean, I just kind of go off what the old timers did with me. They made sure I had a problem. Like, are you willing to go to any length to do something about it? And I was like, yeah, that means work your steps, do whatever you got to do, go to meetings. Because here's what happened after my last relapse. And this is why I know it's so important to me, is like, I know this, not everybody does it, but first 3 years of my recovery, I was in 2 meetings a day, 7 days a week. That's what I had to do. And I tell clients that, or guys I sponsor, and they go, wow, you were like OCD about it. Were you? And I go, no, because I knew where I was going if I didn't. I was either going to die or I was going to go to prison. And yeah, maybe that was overboard, but that was what I had to do. I had to build a foundation for the rest of my life, is, surrounding myself with sober people that had what I wanted. So I had to do what they were doing, work those steps, and just ensure my recovery by doing the things that they were telling me I needed to do. Or let me say it again, suggested that I do.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. And one of the things that I notice is that so many people half-ass not just recovery in the addiction or an alcoholic world, but half-ass the recovery in life. Because the truth is that we are all recovering from something. There is not one thing that we haven't gone through that we have to deeply recover from, I believe. And so, for me, it may not have been death jails or institutions, but I still felt like it was death. Like my soul would have died had I not done some form of recovery. So what do you want the listeners to know? And I'm really passionate about this. Like, I mean, Dr. Rob knows, like, my kids changed my life. My suffering changed my life. So what do you want to share with humans out there in the world that is like, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go to the past. I don't want to have to go back to the scene of the crime. I guess I'm okay where I'm at, right? Because that's what we hear a lot.
Right. So if I can preface it with this. So in my journey of getting clean and sober, one of the best things that I ever got to do, because I did the work, right, was go back 3 years later to the same courtroom I was in and thank that judge for getting me sober in front of the whole courtroom. And I said, if my kids were here, Your Honor, they would give you a hug for giving their dad back. And you could hear a pin drop, right? So he's like, wow, I never had anybody thank me before, but thank you for doing that. And he goes, I probably sent 5,000 guys to prison since then, right? So what I would want people to know is that don't be afraid, of this journey. It's the best thing ever do for yourself and your family, first and foremost, because I see that a lot as a counselor. It's like, I don't want to do the 12 steps. I don't want to do, you come up with options and they have an excuse for every option you come up with. And it's like, I'm like, what are you afraid of? All right. That you'll get better, that you'll get your family back, that you'll be happy, You know what I mean? That you'll be content, that you'll never need a drug again in your life. And, you know, what I would want the listeners to know is that, you know, this is, for me, has been the most amazing journey to when I finally let go of that fear. That's why I named my book Fearless Happiness. And I put the why in the happiness is because it starts with us, right? And when you sincerely look at yourself and go, I need help, I can't do this alone, great things start to happen. And look, I'm on your show, which is, to me, it's an honor and a privilege to be here to share my story. And hopefully, you know, like they say, if I can help one person, then I've done my job. But you know, will we ever truly become fearless in our pursuit of happiness? Probably not, you know, but it's that process. And I guess what I'm getting at is just trust the process. It's the best thing. I mean, I've had the most amazing life, good, bad, or indifferent. And I just interviewed one of my mentors who's a normie, who's helping me with my business end of life. And he asked me one time, he's like, would there be one thing that you would change in this journey you've been on? And I thought about it and I said, absolutely not. This journey has made me the person who I am today, and I wouldn't change a thing, even though there are some things, that were horrible that I did to other people. But would I change it? Absolutely not. You know, because it brought me to recovery, and it brought me around some people that truly love and care for me, you know, no matter what. And yeah, if I could tell any listener, just trust the process. Yes, it'll be ups and downs. Because like I said, one of the greatest gifts too was 2 weeks before my mom passed. You know, I mean, I'd already turned 14, but we were sitting there and she just looked at me and she said, thank you for the 13 years of sobriety. You know, and I wanted to say mom is 14, but I didn't.
Not the time, not the place.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, we were watching TV together. It was on a Monday. It was my, you know, I got to stay with her every Monday night. And she was just, you know, patting my leg, and she just looked at me like, thank you. And little did I know she would be gone 2 weeks later. But, you know, she thanked me for 13 years of sobriety. And that lady had put up with a lot of, you know what, for me. So, you know, that's a gift that you cannot even put a price on.
Yeah.
Just shows you what God will do once you get on his side. And miraculous things will happen, the book says. Miraculous things of miracles, guys. Absolutely. And that the best years of your life lie ahead of you. Unfortunately, Max, we're going to run out of time. I just want to tell you a few things before you go. So I've done some research on you, obviously. I've ordered your book because I'm interested in reading it. And I would just want to say, because we do this often when we meet somebody as courageous as you and somebody who gives back so much. The fact that you went back to the courthouse and thanked the judge, it just blows my mind, first of all. And secondly, it made me very emotional when you were saying it. That's what recovery is all about. You know, giving back, giving back, giving back. So thank you for being you, Max. Thank you for helping the hundreds of thousands, because that ripple effect, we never know. You know, hundreds of thousands of people out there. And guys, if you want to read the book, obviously Fearless Happiness with the Y in it, you see it scrolling across. If you're listening, only Fearless Happiness, HAPPYNESS. You can find it on Amazon, or do what I did, just put it into Google and up it'll come. So thank you so much, Max. It was a pleasure having you. And I just know you're going to do even greater things. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, both of you. Thank you so much, Dr. Rob and Jennifer. I mean, I look forward to stuff like this now. You know, I remember sitting in the cell just wishing I even had a normal bed. Now I'm doing interviews and doing podcasts, and, you know, that's what I try to tell my clients and the guys. I just give it a chance. You know, don't, like they say in the meetings, right? Don't leave 5 minutes before the miracle, because you'll miss it. And it's just like, you know, I have such a wonderful life today. Good, bad, or indifferent, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Max, thank you so much for doing your work. Thanks for allowing and listening to your soul stir and knock on that door so that you would wake up one day. And thank you for the impact that you're having in the world with your book, with who you are, and just helping people overcome and create new lives for themselves. I really appreciate that. And I hope at some point when I'm back home in the good old OC, we can have a cup of coffee.
Of course, I would love that. Thank you. Or if you're ever in San Diego County, we can go have that cup of coffee.
All right.
COVID doesn't shut everything down.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, guys. That was Max Nijst. We'll be right back to close the show after this. Hey guys, welcome back. That was awesome. Max Nijst on the show. I love that, Jen. Did you?
I do. I love like the redemption stories. Those are my favorite stories ever. People overcoming, breaking up with their bullshit, having a new life, creating something different, and then having a spiritual life. I love that. It's like, to me, there's nothing better than that.
Now, it takes hard work. You know, they're giving up the drink and drugs, guys. That's easy. That's the easy part of it. That's a given once you get on the right path. It's all the work, you know, that I talk about. It's all the work that Jen talks about. You know, it's going back to the scene of the crime. It's being that spiritual guy. It's making that right choice. It's hanging around with the right people. You know, I was telling Jennifer when she was over, we've never flown. Well, we have flown one person in, but we never fly people in to stay with us overnight unless we fully trust them, of course. Because who you hang about with is who you become. I forget who said it once, but show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And it's so true. So be careful who you hang around, guys. Be careful what you listen to. Oh, we're all mad in here. Excuse me, not me. I've been restored to sanity. And it's important about internal dialogue as well. If I drop a pen off the floor, I'm not a stupid idiot. I've just dropped a pen on the floor. Like right. Bill, he dropped my iPad on the floor and cracked it. That
was the best. That was the best moment. Oh my gosh. I was dying. I was like, oh shit. He really cracked Dr. Rom's iPad. It was so great. But I wanted to also say, you know, I spent a lifetime searching for a man to come in and save my life, whatever it was, right? It was like, that was my drug of choice. And when I became my own hero, when I went on that journey to be my own hero, my whole life changed. And that's really what Max was talking about. That's what I think we are talking about, is become your own hero. And you know, it's a windy road. It's not a gold-filled road for sure, but there's a lots of interesting messages along the way. And I really encourage you to take that journey. So that's my little speech for today.
Excellent, guys. If you want a free book, The Addiction Diaries and Daddy, Please Stop Drinking. Addiction Diaries from Jennifer, of course. Daddy, Please Stop Drinking from me. Send me a message. USA only, please. We've had some, text from India and England and Japan. It's like we can't really send it out there. The reason was the book's probably about $10, $11, but it'll cost us about $60 to send out. So I'm sorry about that. But if you go online, you'll see a free version that you can download. Great to see you guys. Great to be here. Happy birthday to Charlie, and her partner Lucy is going to take care of her today. And Jen.
Happy birthday to JoJo, and celebrating 2.5 years of sobriety, and as well as his birthday, a quarter of a century old today. And thank you for watching the show. We look forward to seeing you really soon. Have an awesome day.
Bye, guys.